Hello, and welcome to this short story series, A Day in the Life of Julian of Norwich, narrated by myself, Isis All Things. If you want to follow along, please subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell button to be informed of the next story posted. Thank you. Part 3, A Day in the Life of Julian. God works in mysterious ways. I can hear the shuffle and the falling footsteps of many who enter the church for Sunday service this day. The hushed whispers and the rustling of skirts and creaking of breeches as the congregation settles itself onto the creaking wooden benches for morning worship. A few coughs and sneezes, and then silence falls, as just one pair of heavy footsteps and sweeping of heavily embroidered gown indicate the arrival of the priest at the head of the church. I position myself at my third tiny window, which gives me a bird's eye view of the pulpit. This is where the priest has now positioned himself for the opening hymn. This is the extent of my interaction with the church, as I'm not able to enter now that the interconnecting door has been permanently sealed by the bishop upon my vows, which he blessed. I take comfort in the rising beauty of the songs and the beautiful music and choir, which lifts my spirits, and the prayers of devotion, which bring me close to my heart again. Sometimes so much time spent alone alienates me from the companion of others in worship, so that these services are very precious to me. So the priest has cleared his throat to deliver his weekly sermon about contrition and fasting as an act of humility in the face of our imperfect, sinful nature. His voice rises and falls with the changing emotions of his subject, imagining the wrath of God when we stumble and fall. After his chiding, he reminds each and every one that they are not lost in their sins, but beholden to our Lord Jesus Christ and his sacrifice on behalf of them all. The conclusion of his speech drives the fear of God into them, commanding them to bare their souls and beg for his forgiveness, lest they suffer the fires of hell on their departure from this mortal coil. As I walk back to my wooden stool to rest in my room, I smile to myself whenever I hear such talk of God's punishing nature. As a mystic, I am granted direct communion with God and am not considered to be under their jurisdiction. They control and hold the people in fear and guilt, that they may be manipulated in their worship of him. The Lord that I know and love is gentle like a mother, one who nurtures and loves each creation utterly for what it is, to the end of time. I felt it to be a love without condition in my visions, just as the very existence of my soul was enough to receive this highest of all loves. I had experienced this feeling during my visions of Christ, and that there is nothing any soul can do that would move him to withdraw his love or punish them. And I had the profound privilege of coming to know this firsthand. These are the words of comfort that I write in my secret book, Divine Revelations of Love. For should these thoughts come to light of mine, they would most certainly be branded as heretical. I knew that my writings would never be publicly spoken in these days of the patriarchy, as you call it, and had resolved to keep them hidden until such time as I prepared to leave this earthly plane, when I planned to then hand them over to my attendants for safe carriage to the nuns of the Brigantine and the Benedictine orders. I prayed that one day these visions given me by Jesus Christ would find a hearing ear and an open heart, but I was sure it would not be for many eons of time to come, or as many of you would understand it today, in divine timing. Well, now that I have hindsight from my vantage point in heaven, I know that you will be shocked to realize that these musings of mine, many years in the writing, were hidden and lost for almost 100 years, until such time that the burnings were long forgotten and there was freedom of speech without pain of a Lollard's death on the stake. The first publishing of my long text was in 1670, and then only modernized in 1843, some 200 years later. Finally, these mystic texts emerged from obscurity in 1901, some 500 years after my writing them. I smile wryly when I see that I am now finally considered to be an important Christian mystic and theologian in your times. Patience is a virtue, but then there is no time in the dimension where I now reside, and all things happen in the perfect time for them. One of my sayings that has become famous by the poet you know as T.S. Eliot is, "All shall be well, and you shall see yourself that all manner of things shall be well." I'm glad if you can take some comfort in these words during these distressing times of global fear and anxiety about the great sickness, COVID-19, sweeping the globe. Remember that everything in God's eyes is in perfect alignment, and all shall indeed be well in the end. Faith and trust in these words will bring you back to your center of peace and grace. Acceptance of all that is will be the alchemy that changes your inner landscape to one of peace amongst chaos. Blessings to you all, children of God and beloved ones. Well, this will not do. I have sat for long enough in reverie on this creaky old chair, and now my back aches and my stomach rumbles. I will call through my interior window and see what simple fare that I will become today for my lunch, and how it will nourish my body and soul back to life. No doubt Amelia will come purring and rubbing herself up against my legs for her share of the meal, and I am happy she is here. Otherwise, without this little cat, I would be as those of you in isolation now, without human touch or an arm of comfort around me. Ah, here she is, slinking out of the corner as I thought. Welcome back, dear Amelia. Did you know I was talking about you? I think you did. Now, tomorrow is a very special day, Amelia. You will not believe whom we are to expect a visit from, but Marjorie Kemp herself. Yes, it's very exciting, and she's always so wild and funny and has many colourful tales to tell about her travels, I hear. I wonder what she will have to say to us. I cannot wait to see her. Thank you for following my story, and please take part in the series, which is part 4, and it's the first meeting of fellow mystic and pilgrim Marjorie Kemp. Bless you and stay safe.